It is the first discussion segment on Signature Morning, and our focus will be on something that concerns every one of us, especially if you're living in Nigeria, most especially 19 states at this time of the year. The prevalent heat wave across Nigeria and health implications. And to have that conversation with us this morning is the Nigerian Medical Association Enugu State Chairman, a community health physician, Rotarian Dr. Sunday Okafor. Good morning, Doc, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
NIMET issues warning on heat wave. 19 states have been mentioned. Some states in the southeast, including Enugu, Anambra, Ebonyi, and some states in the coastal region. These states are unusually mentioned this time because in the past we know that the northern states have more heat waves than the rest of the states. But this time around, coastal states and the southeast states were also mentioned. Is there something we should know? Why is that so now?
All right, thank you very much. It is actually important that we understand the basis for the changing climate. It's just all about pollution in the air. And then the reason why it appears there is this unusual trend, you also trace it back to activities of man, mainly. Okay? Those activities of man, urbanization, deforestation, and industrial activities. So you have more of these things around this region, the southeast, the south-south, in the coastal region, where you have a lot of gas flaring, a lot of mining activities, a lot of deforestations in a bid to urbanize. So it is not scientifically unusual to actually have this trend, so to say.
Now, at this time, I don't know who should be more precautious. Are there people who are more prone to be attacked by this situation? You know, you are dressed on suits. It means you are not scared of the situation.
Oh, yes. You are talking about ways of addressing the what we call the effects of extreme temperature this time around, extreme high temperature. Because when you talk about extreme temperature, you can actually have also extreme cold temperature. So I am on my suit because I'm just coming from inside of my car that is air conditioned. Okay? And one of the things that we talk about when we try to look at preventing the effects of extreme high temperature heat is trying to get people less exposed to those extreme temperature. Those that are working should be able to do what? Have short durations within that environment, very hot environment. Okay? You should quickly cool those who actually feel hot. Cooling means taking water, cold water, replacing electrolytes and salt, because by the time we look at the health effects of extreme high temperature, as the heat waves, that's a whole range of it. You talk about those issues pertaining the heat rashes, that's what they call heat cramps, that's what they call heat syncope, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, which is the severest of them. Okay?
There is something called heat stroke?
Of course, of course. But
How
so by the
does
time
that
we look at the
present?
effects
Let's
of,
just talk about how it presents so that someone will be aware already. how when the person is attacked by a heat stroke?
All right. You see, the direct health effects of this heat wave ranges from the mildest of it, which is called the heat rashes. That's the prickly heat that we all know. Malaria, libera, where you have just what happens is that because the body temperature regulatory mechanism is actually trying to compensate for the hot air. So by doing that, it wants to quickly cool the body, the surface of the body, by sweating. So excessive production of the sweat will clog the sweat glands. And when they do that, they form those rashes. That's just it, okay? So which could actually be sometimes painful, okay, and itchy. So usually with the application of mostly calamine lotion, okay, and then
just to soothe it.
Yes, no, yeah, it goes,
Oh,
okay, and then antihistamines like the loratadine, cetirizine, and all that, Peritone, that will actually help to reduce the itching, because over time the rash will go, but the complications of you making an attempt to itch, that is scratch, the itching and all that, may transform what could have actually been a simple rash that would have healed to something more complex or complicated, okay? So that is actually the simplest of it. So with that, you are good to go. But if you continue to expose this person, okay, to longer duration of extreme temperature, the person can actually come down with the next stroke of it, which is what we call the heat cramp. Have you ever actually been walking in extreme temperature, hot air, and and then you begin to feel some form of tetany on your feet?
What's that?
Feet, like contractions.
Okay.
You feel, someone say like as if the feet are contracting, and all that.
Is it
and the
different
person
from
wants
what we call muscle pull in the layman parlance?
Not necessarily muscle pull, not necessarily, but it's something like that. Yes, it's something like that. Muscle pulls are sustained form of this contraction. Okay.
You're saying this is connected with heat
yes,
stress?
oh yes. What happens is that when you are exposed to that, you begin to sweat a lot, right? Which is what usually happens when you go out there in the market and where people are actually working in industries and all that. People are sweating a lot, even in their homes, when they are not well educated in terms of trying to provide enough ventilation and all that. So they sweat a lot. So when you sweat, you lose what we call electrolytes, salts. Okay? Losing all those things affects there are so many body mechanisms, as well called the calcium channel and other channels through which the muscles actually contract and all that. Okay? So deficiency, lack of that, will begin to actually give you those symptoms. Okay? So sometimes you might even have it in the abdomen, especially in children. Sometimes they say that, their abdomen, their tummy is actually contracting and all that. You don't know that the child is actually passing through heat stress, heat-related illnesses or disorders. Okay? So what do? Quickly cool the individual. Okay? Take cold water, bring the person out. You don't need to actually stay out there in the sun for a long time. Okay? And try to ventilate your environment, use fans, open the windows and all that. And if you can, air conditioners. Okay? Then rehydration. There's need for you to rehydrate. Okay? Rehydration means you must take water so that you can replace the fluid. Also take salty fluid, like even juice. Those things that contain sodium and all that. Sprite. Okay? So that you can quickly replace the electrolytes. Okay? So that is it.
No,
So
there's something you mentioned about those who stay out under the sun. You said you should not stay, but there are people whose economic activities keep them perpetually under the sun. Now that we are taking this toll, before we get back to other parts of the conversation, what can they do at this time? You know, what their line of businesses will have to take them right under the sun. You can't tell a barrow pusher to push his barrow under his shade.
Absolutely.
There's no choice here.
practical example. We have a barrel pusher down there at Obete, right? Good. What you advise that barrel pusher? If you do your job, maybe you move goods from inside the market to maybe prison side, you come back, you go for the second time, you come back. What do? You must not really, you must adapt. You must find a way of doing what? Saying, okay, you know what? Let me go under the shade and do what? Rest. You are limiting exposure. You must not be out there like, expose yourself because you want to actually make all the money at the expense of your health. Do you understand? It also happens even for you. That's actually, I'm not sure that you actually stay here in the studio all day, right? So there should be enlightenment for those of them that are actually out there, that you must not really go all the way trying to carry all the loads, even when all the loads and all the jobs are there. Okay? When you go the first one, go the second one, and maybe you get yourself, you can say, okay, let me just take 30 minutes. Okay, under the shades. Go there, get thankfully you have a lot of cold water out there, sachet water and all that, and even mineral. People are actually carrying all those things. Get them, get enough water, Sprite and all that. Rehydrate, cool your body so that your body system will come back. Then you can now return back and continue. It's someone who's actually alive and healthy that can actually do the job. So it's a practical example. So there's no point. They can do that, and we need to actually enlighten them if they're listening. These are actually the things that they actually need to do.
But this heat wave, is it because of the changing climate that we have, or it hasn't always been like this? We understand that there's something called climate change. How are human beings, we humans, our sustained activities against climate help this type of heat waves?
Okay. Like I said, it is good for us to understand the basics for the extreme high temperature that we have. Okay? The basics, the foundation is what we call air pollution. Okay?
The foundation of heat wave.
Yes,
it's air pollution.
Air pollution, yes. That is the ecosystem effect of air pollution. Okay? What it simply means is that, you see, when you have primary, secondary, conventional and unconventional pollutants, a lot of them, gases out there, okay? They form the acid rains. They deplete the ozone layer. The greenhouse gases cause the global warming. Okay? If you don't pollute the air with these gases, there won't be these chains of events. For instance, if you talk about depletion of the ozone layer, okay? There is a layer, that it actually extends from the Earth surface into the Earth up to about 50 meters into the stratosphere. Now, if you have some gases that we know released from mining activities, gas flaring, deforestation, okay? You remember, when some of us were in our secondary schools, we used to hear about photosynthesis, right? When you have the trees, the grasses and all that, they trap carbon dioxide and do what? Release oxygen. That is photosynthesis. What we need more on the Earth's surface is more of what? Oxygen. Carbon dioxide are actually those that will actually, is a greenhouse gas. Okay? You have these issues about water vapor and the rest of them. They are greenhouse gases. Now, most of the activities that are actually generated from all these paint industries, petrochemical industries, even our domestic activities like fumigation, okay, use of pesticides and all that, it generates a lot of chlorine product and bromine product that depletes the ozone layer. And when that happens, that protective shade that we actually have will be depleted, and the UV rays from the sun will come directly on the Earth's surface. So the intensity of the sun will be more. High temperature.
And that's why we're experiencing
what we're experiencing. Of course. Okay? Now, for the global warming, in terms of the greenhouse effect, what happens is that, you see, when the sun actually comes, it is supposed to be reflected back. There should be an allowance for dissipation of the heat when it lands the Earth's surface. Okay? But these gases we've actually mentioned, like carbon dioxide and the rest of them, and water vapor, will form like a screen blanket, a greenhouse blanket, preventing the dissipation of the heat that hits the Earth. Do you understand now? So what it means is that heat is now trapped, okay, on the Earth's surface. And once that happens, it begins to do what? Warm the Earth, extreme heat, heat waves, and it has a whole lot of, beyond even human, effects. It has a lot of environmental effect, including, because this heat will go and actually melts the polar ice caps, release so much water in the oceans, and you have things like flooding. Okay, Naime, just not only, they will not talk about only what's it called, the heat waves. They also tell you about what flooding. It comes with flooding and all that. Thank you.
All right. Let's get back to the medical sector where you belong. Currently, we are battling cholera. And yes, I heard something about diphtheria in Lagos State. I don't know if it has escalated to some other state. The truth is that we have not so strong. I don't know if it is okay to use collapsing health sector or burdened health sector. So now, how can the government come in right now? I want to believe it's not so late to, find out what to do so as not to allow this to develop into a health emergency. You talked about heat stroke and I got scared. So how can we prevent people from being admitted? Yes, from landing in the hospital because of heat.
Okay. So, you mentioned so many things now, So are we talking about government rules in terms of
yes,
heat wave?
Yes.
Or are you talking about cholera and
no,
all
I
that?
said that the health sector is already burdened with stuff to handle.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we handle this one?
Can we handle?
To what extent?
Or what can we do to ensure it doesn't even get to emergency?
So first, I'm a public health physician. The foundation of my discipline is preventive medicine. Prevention. And
better than cure.
And the world, even the World Health Organization, is actually focusing its resources on preventive medicine now, because it takes a huge chunk of resources, financial resources, of the virtual to be able to, the amount you're going to deploy in trying to address a cancer case, just one cancer case, anywhere in the world, will be enough for you to actually prevent a whole community. That's prevent disease in a whole community. Okay? Now, we must try and create a balance. That's where government should come. First, there should be appropriate legislation and health education.
Now,
okay,
talk about this health education. Whose
Yeah.
duty is it to disseminate information? You talked about creating awareness and all
Yeah.
of those. Who should do this? For instance, the man in the market earning a living, who should let him know that at this time he has to, that he's losing electrodes and has to replace it? He doesn't know this thing.
Good. You know, you're talking about now personal health education in terms of the personal health. Before you actually get to that, there is what we call the larger scale legislation and health education. Okay, health education in terms of preventing the heat wave itself. Before you start with, before you talk about health education, when the heat wave now comes, what do you now do? Okay? Is it possible for us to de-emphasize burning?
Bush burning.
Burning. Not just bush burning, even
Refuse.
these are our refuse. We have a very poor attitude of waste disposal. We must start talking about the real things, you know, so we don't just do window dressing and go. If you go down your street and all that, you see people bringing out their things and in front of your house there and burning and all that. In fact, you'll be choking inside of your house.
Yeah.
And when you come out, you say it is actually in front of their gates. Yeah, so go and face your distance. Oh, do you understand? If there's an appropriate legislation, the government will actually come and say, anybody who does this open burning and incineration and all that, there is a fine, prosecution and all that. People, it will deter people. So what you do is that people even burn plastics. A lot of these plastics releases a lot of gases and all that, which is actually easily recycled. And all that. So legislation, enforcement and all that, it's key. Appropriate use of herbicides, fungicides and all those chemicals, okay, and all that. We should be able to learn how to use them. Do you understand? So legislation should be around these chemical uses. Okay? Then you talk about even mining activities, illegal mining activities. Government must actually come in too and say, look, we must regulate this industry. Okay? Because a lot of illegal mining activities are actually going on, even in Enugu State. Okay? Including coal. So we must actually come in and be able to address some of all these issues. And then before you can now come down to, okay, if we have done all these things, and then maybe we have some sporadic occurrence of heat waves. So what do we now do? Okay? So what we do is what we're now telling these individuals. Everything must not be centered around government. Okay? The individual bodies, like in the Nigerian Medical Association, even the media houses, okay? It is part of your corporate social responsibility to actually take up some certain campaigns targeted towards addressing the health challenges of the populace.
I believe that's what we're doing.
Oh yes. Do you understand? Because if you are going to wait for the government to really do all this, and the government, through the Ministry of Health, has its own department, that is Public Health Department. They are supposed to, from time to time, periodically, reach these markets, churches, and all that to do health promotion and awareness. Okay? But that is actually a story or discussion for another day. Okay? Because, yes, we need to actually rise up to the occasion and be able to ensure that our people are well enlightened, educated, so that they can actually act correctly.
All right.
I've heard a lot of people speak just a minute. I just heard people talk about going green, and a lot of discussions, even internationally, about going green. What the world powers do versus what the developing countries do. how much of that can help or is helping? Because it's nearly impossible to not pollute the air. I mean, even when you drive your car, the smoke that comes out of the car pollutes the air. We've seen, like you said, indiscriminate dumping of refuse and then people burning bushes. Can you really stop burning of bushes? Can you really stop people from burning things in their homes? How much of that education that we are asking for can really go as far as having people do the right thing? We live in Nigeria. We know what people do when it comes to even things that have to do with their personal health. They don't take it seriously. They don't talk of stopping them from doing other things.
What affects everyone else.
What affects everyone else. So how much of that do you think plays any role in improving what we do?
Yeah, you cannot completely take away human activities. I mean, the world will keep evolving, okay? Technology will continue to come in, industrializations and all that. But around this is what we call minimization of these activities, creating a balance. In fact, the world has even gone ahead of us. There's what we call carbon currency. Have you heard about that? The carbon currency, yeah. You see, it is aimed, activities and policies aimed at mitigating the issues around climate change and all that. Okay, the world is going towards reducing the burning of fossil fuels, right? Carbon emission. So, what other form of energy can you create? So, if you were actually maybe emitting, let's say, 100 units before now as a country, and then you were able to create an alternative form of energy, okay, greener energy, okay, and you have reduced that 100 unit of carbon emission in terms of your activities generation to, let's just say, 65. What it means is that 35% of your energy use has been channeled or converted from carbon to other alternatives that are greener. Okay? You will be paid. Yes. That's the unit. So each of them has its unit. And each of those units has some dollar equivalent.
Charles, I thought you were going to ask him who.
Do you understand?
I know.
So that
Yes.
I can key in
he's
right
coming.
away.
He's coming to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the United Nations actually has this committee on that. Okay? That actually computes how much of this you've actually earned. And you are paid.
Wow.
Yes. And countries are really
Keen
that's
in.
why you are seeing even these cars, electric cars, okay?
CNG.
Energy generation. People are now going even these wind,
Turbo.
yes, okay, and all that, okay. So these are actually some of the policies and global efforts towards the minimization of release of carbons, because at the foundation of this thing is just release of so much carbons and carbon-related gases and all that. So we can really minimize these activities. We can always strike a balance between some of all these highly hazardous gases in terms of their production, and also those that will actually give us greener releases. Mind you, we talked about issues pertaining photosynthesis. That's why you are talking about going green and green and all that. The essence of going green is that you can enhance photosynthetic activities. Too many carbon dioxide in the air. We want the plants and the grasses to actually pick them and release more of what? Oxygen. If you go down there in the villages where you have a lot of bushes and grasses and all that, you have more air. Sometimes when you return back to your village during festivities or something like that, you just tell yourself, man, I have not received this kind of air in a very long while, right? Yes. So, but here in townships and all that, you have a lot of, in fact, in the name of urbanization development, a lot of plants and trees and all that are being felled. And then, I mean, it has its own consequences, and that's what we are dealing with.
Okay, now, away from all of this, we are in the situation right now. What are the precautions, the safety precautions one can take to ensure that they don't get dehydrated with the increase in the extreme heat and emission from the sun, the attack?
Okay.
What are those safety precautions?
Okay. All right, so number one, limit exposure. How do you limit exposure? If you don't have to go out, don't, right? If you don't have to, if it's not necessary, stay at home, stay under the shade. There are some outings that are unnecessary. People just want to just go out and all that. Okay? So limit exposure. If you must go out, try as much as possible to be under the shades as much as possible. All right? If you're waiting for someone, you don't necessarily need to actually stand out there in the sun because you are waiting for someone, looking at your time and all that, and then you are sweating. Okay, where you can actually, the first thing that will actually come to your mind, please, where can I have a shade and all that? That consciousness must be there. Do you understand? So all these things I've been talking about is limiting exposure. That is to start with. Okay? Can you have actually access to cool environment, fans and all that, where is it? As much as possible where you can do that, do. Right? That's number one. Two, please, if you are going out, ensure you have your flasks, water bottles and all that. Okay? So if you have cold water at home, you take it. While out there, get sachet water or bottled water as the case may be. That's actually cold. Pour it inside of the sun and keep rehydrating. As you are sweating, there's a need for you to do what? Rehydrate yourself. All right? If you can, get a bottle of Sprite or Schweppes and what have you. It contains some sodium and the rest of them. If you look at the the content, the ingredients, okay, active ingredients in all those things. So that way you can quickly replenish or replace some of the electrolytes, the sodiums and all that you are losing without you knowing. All right? So can you actually blow some air? Fanning. Okay? Some of all these electric fans or rechargeable fans that you women carry, this is where it's going to be
Men
very
can also
handy.
carry them.
Men can also carry it. That's what we're actually trying to say now. So it's no longer a thing of a feminine thing or something like that. It is a survival strategy. Okay? So when you see a man carrying a hand fan and all that, you shouldn't say, what's this guy is feminine or that. Every man out there should be able to actually get one and do that. If you can't actually afford one, please, you can afford the hand one, the hand-made one. That's the ones that are actually foldable, right? So you can fold it. Nobody knows, that's actually fine. So you can open it and then blow some air for yourself, okay? So that's that. Then we can always minimize long standing, okay? Standing for long, because
Even under the shade now?
Yeah. I mean under that sun.
Okay.
Yes, because one of the health effects is actually hypotension. That is low blood pressure.
The effects of
too much
heat.
Yes. By the time low blood pressure, yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things, one of the causes of hypotension, low blood pressure, is the heat wave. That is the heat syncope, heat stroke.
Wow.
By the time you get to a level whereby you now get to the level of the heat syncope and heat stroke, have you seen where someone is actually standing out there in the sun or even walking around and all of a sudden the person
collapses?
Slumps. And after a time with fanning with cold water, water that's cool, not that cold,
Room temperature?
damping, no, that's cool water,
Okay.
Yeah, the water is cool, not cold water. with damping of the waters and all that rehydration, the person suddenly wakes up and all that. Okay? Heat syncope. There could be loss of consciousness. The person, the pulse will be rapid, fast, and weak. You see, because the body is trying to really work so hard to be able to, cope. The blood pressure is low, and what have you. So it is important. So when you are actually standing for that long with hypotension, what happens? The body is a mechanism, it's an adaptive mechanism. There's likelihood that you're going to do what? Fall, slump, because of the dissociation, okay? Because of the hypotension, the low blood pressure. So it's important that we understand some of all these things, take effect, and also, what you wear matters too. Okay, we talked about it when we actually, started. Loose, permeable clothing is recommended highly. Okay, don't wear tight-fitted
Clothes.
this and that are not permeable. When we say permeable, wear air. Breathable. Where air can actually listen. That's what you should use, especially for those of us who do not have access to air-conditioned environment and all that. For instance, like I said, I'm on my suit. I'm not on this suit all day. Okay, I might actually be out there where I might just be having just fans, or out in the public. So you might just take
What do you
this.
think of fanning yourself when you are outside?
Oh yes, I have my own rechargeable fan.
Hand fan.
Okay.
Hand fan.
Hand fan,
Yes,
okay.
I have my own. Okay.
No, apart from the hand fan,
yes.
do you want that?
Oh yes, if you can't.
The artificial one, or you
Oh,
can fanning yourself?
Oh yes,
Okay.
you can.
Okay.
You have that. Not everyone can actually afford the
Hand
rechargeable hand fan and all that. So all these things are part of the ways as to really prevent and mitigate the effects.
Apart
of heat
from
waves.
ensuring you don't stay long under the sun, there's something you hampered on so much, and that's drinking water. A lot has been said in the past about water, intake of water. I know there's a certain liter quantity of water that should be taken. So, but with this condition right now, how much water, or quantity of water, would you advise that we take with this heat wave?
There is no limit to the amount of water you can take, especially in this condition. You are losing a lot of water and electrolyte, okay? And from morning, by the time you are leaving, or even you are home, till evening, okay, it is advisable that at least 5 liters of water was consumed. Okay? At least 5 liters.
5 liters.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes. 5 liters.
5 liters. What constitutes 5 liters?
A sachet water is like
It's the big ever water is 1.5 liters.
Is it 1.5? I
Oh,
thought
yes.
it was 3.
No. No. It's 1.5.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yes, it's 1.5 liters. So what
So
it
you
means is
take
that
like
that's about
three.
like 3 of them.
Every day.
Yes. It can be more. Oh yes.
I'm not sure I take that every day.
Oh yes, that is it. Okay,
Wow.
but you know that depending on your activity and how much heat you are losing. For instance, the body has a way of regulating the temperature and water and all that. During rainy season and in cold temperatures, the body wants to do what? Push out a lot of water because the body is extremely cold. All right, so that's why you go and pee multiple times, even when you are not actually taking enough water.
Yes.
All right, but you will recall that during this heat wave and all those things, you hardly remember when you have gone to pee. All right,
but you
because
drink
the
more.
body is trying to conserve the water, and you are losing a lot.
Yes.
Okay, so why it is now important for you to take excess of water, enough water, is because of your kidneys. Conserving yourself and being dehydrated is not actually good for your kidneys, because you need to actually get enough volume of enough volume of blood, okay, to your kidneys, so that some of the toxic wastes can actually be excreted, okay, very freely and very seamlessly by the kidneys. But when you're not doing that, there's tendency for you to retain a lot of wastes that would have ordinarily been excreted by the kidneys. Okay, so it is very healthy for the kidneys, it is very healthy for the blood and for the entire system.
But in case you're busy and you're not able to quantify the amount of water you take in, you can also be conscious enough to make sure you drink water once you're thirsty. Wouldn't it solve this problem?
Oh yes, the way to actually go about some of all these things is just to get water handy. That's all. All right.
As soon as you're thirsty,
get water.
Get
water handy.
Okay.
Develop that habit. That's why I said carry your water bottles and all that. If you can't, for the meal and all, you just have access to your Everwater, Aquavina and all the rest of your Aquarafa.
You pay us for advertising.
Oh yeah, all of them. They're all table water. So we quickly, ask for it and then gulp one, or gulp half of it and just keep. And when you are leaving, don't do the big boy or big girl because you are leaving there. Please carry your bottled water along, with you, because you're going to need it at the next point. Okay, so those are the practicable things we can actually do.
Fantastic, really, Doc. You've covered a whole lot for us this morning, and we really appreciate your insightful comments on the show this morning. Beyond this, we know that sometimes these things are beyond the arms and the activities of what the government can do as it stands right now. Individuals have to take responsibility to make sure that they do the needful.
Absolutely.
So going forward, in your last take on this particular matter, what else can someone do? And what else from the government as well can they also do to contribute to the solutions to this problem? And what else can humans also do to make sure that this heat wave is actually reduced? I really don't know. In comparison with last year, the heat this year is actually more. And there are people who have also said that the rain this year, because of how hot it is, it will be really high this year. So, so these are things that humans are facing because of their lack of awareness to the environment that where they are right now.
And we're in March, mid-March already, and the rains are yet to be here.
Yeah. Why we're actually battling with the, heat waves, I'm even most concerned about the flooding, because I'm now predicting, I'm now trying to project what's going to happen or what might happen. Right?
Rainy season.
Oh yes, because beyond this, we've talked about it. A lot of the ice at the polar ends of the Earth actually melted, okay, and they are dropping into the oceans and the seas and all that, and the water levels are increasing, okay. So by the time we enter the rainy season and all that,
flooding should be expected.
Yeah. So the early warning signs should be there. People should be asked to really start making contingency plans already. Okay. Now, the government should actually prioritize activities around climate change. And what are they? Afforestation and reforestation. Okay, we must, take it very, very seriously this time around. And I'm calling on the government of Enugu State to champion tree planting, afforestation and reforestation projects. Okay, at some locations, it could be satellite towns, at some location around the urban and suburban. Okay, everywhere must not be built. Okay? Yeah. Landed properties and all those things are like, so to say, oil and gas, maybe in Enugu and all that, okay? Due to the location, due to the activities, due to, of course, the security and development that the administration of His Excellency Dr. Peter Mba is actually bringing into the state. But then, we must also balance some of all these activities. We must really, before the middle of this year, commence an aggressive afforestation project, that tree planting. It is very, 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 very critical. Let me shock you. Let me shock you. A lot of our villages that were hitherto rural areas and all those things are being urbanized.
Yes.
And lands that ordinarily that we could even buy. I remember there's some land that we bought at barely 80,000 naira then. It's in millions now. In the villages.
Is that the effect of the
Urbanization? Yeah, oh yes. And what is actually happening? Those bushes and trees and all those things are going down. And people are building. People are erecting structures.
And soon villages will no longer be as chilly as they used to be.
Oh yes. And let me tell you, the shocking part of it again is that none of all these persons actually have the consciousness of the climate change activities. How many of them are actually planting trees even in their compound that they want to build all the mansions and all that? None, or very few of them. So what they just do is they use these their interlockings and all those things and cover everywhere. And nobody, when they must have fallen all the trees. Do you understand? At least there used to be a time when when you are building all the castles and all the mansions, there are some ornaments and trees, plantings and all that. So that, I mean, you still have the compound well aerated, cool breeze will come in with it, even with that mansion. But today, we are losing that value, we are losing that insight, we are losing it all. And it is not healthy. It is something that we must quickly reverse, a trend we must quickly reverse, I must say.
All right, before we let you go, Dr. Sonny Okafor, in the north, there's an ailment that is prevalent, meningitis. I don't know if that is associated with the heat wave. And if so, how can those states that didn't have heat wave before now, hitherto, how can they begin to make plans to contain this condition in case it comes up?
Yeah. Like I said, heat wave, foundation, air pollution. That is the health effects. One of them. You talk about even cataract. Are you aware?
Of the eyes?
Yes. The heat waves, the excess extremes of heat. Yes. Is one of the principal factors.
Dries up the
eye. Yes. Cataract. Even skin cancers, skin diseases. Are you not aware? That's why you try to cover UV lights, rays from the sun. When you are exposed to that very high temperature for long, it can begin to burn the skin and transform into what? Malignancy. It's possible, yeah. Okay? Then you talk about even respiratory illnesses. Respiratory illnesses. Part of it is what we just mentioned. Meningitis.
Oh.
The route of transmission is through the airway. That is the respiratory route. Even though it is inflammation of the meninges, infection of the meninges, but the route of entry is through the airway.
Which part of the body is the meninges?
There is actually the coverings of the brain, the brain cells and the spinal cord. So there is a sheet that covers them. That is the meninges. Yes. So that's why when you have meningitis, that is the infection and inflammation of that coverings of those areas. And that's why the symptoms you see with meningitis, with all this stiffness, neck, loss of consciousness and all that, it has to do with the nervous system, both central and peripheral nervous system. Okay. So when you look at all this, you will see that there is an urgent need for us to stem this tide.
Is there anything on ground right now For the heat wave that is already on ground now, we are not talking about prevention, while that is a long-term plan.
Well, part of the things that we can do in the immediate is to do what? Sensitize, enlighten our people. It's part of the thing we're actually doing. We must actually take it very seriously. We are also willing to be here again to actually keep sensitizing. That's the reason why, recall that we actually have a burial we're going for today. But I said, because of this.
Duty.
Yeah, so we must really do this. And then we are also confident in the resilient health system that His Excellency is actually building. All right? Just yesterday, a Type 2 primary health center was actually commissioned with about 5,000 enrollees into the Enugu State Health Insurance Scheme. Just at Emene, there, behind Emenite. Okay? So, and that is also happening in every ward. So there's revamping, restructuring, in terms of building a resilient health system, because you will need that when you eventually have patients, an outbreak or something, so that the health system will not be overwhelmed.
All right.
Okay?
I think this is the right place to leave the discussion. Since you have promised to be here again to sensitize the people more, we will end it here. Prevalent heat wave across Nigeria and health implications was a subject matter on this segment, and our guest is the NMA chairman, Enugu State Chapter, and a public health physician, Dr. Rotarian Sunday Okafor. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We take a short break. When we return, the show continues.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.